I have a collection of C.S. Lewis's diary entries. There are some interesting tidbits. Let's see what Robot Lady thinks. This is from a letter from C.S. Lewis to one of his friends. The letter was dated in 1950, and it goes something like this. To Dorothy Sayers, concerning a speaking engagement, I would not want to lose a few weeks to find cool weather in Oxford. I can't remember if this is the 7th, 8th, or 9th refusal I have made to speak at such a place this year, but it's certainly one of the 3. So one of his friends concerning teaching to somebody, possibly myself, ought to warn them that they are risking the opening of the pit and the start of a great war. I shall certainly not let them do it if I can help it. Somewhere on the road, in the dark, they must take on new supplies, and we must stop and rest and eat. As for food, I shall soon be able to get plenty for them in the nearby town. A note written to his brother, dated 1951. Dear Jack, I have been reading your letter and think it would be a mistake to change anything in it. Of course you must follow your own judgment.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him together through everything he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I am joined today by my newest co-host. This is Lexi, that you see over here, I guess, to my, well, it's on the left side, I guess, from where you can see Lexi. Today, his episode is, Lewis is 26 years old in today's episode. He's been recently elected as a Fellow of Magdalen College. He's currently on holiday with Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Moore's daughter. It's basically his surrogate or substitute family at this point in his life. He begins his career as a Fellow of English Language and Literature, actually a tutor in English Language and Literature for a 5-year term. And him being elected was the culmination of many, many hard years of effort and uncertainty, financial difficulties, having to rely on his father for all of the support that he was getting financially, and some of that he was funneling in secret to help keep up Mrs. Moore and her daughter's household. There's a whole other story there. If you want to dig back into the archives of this project, you can learn all about it. Let's see. We've been following Lewis's journey up to this point through his letters that he wrote to friends and family, and then, of course, through his diary entries. Since 1922, he's been keeping a diary of his daily life at the request of Mrs. Moore, who is his deceased friend Paddy Moore's mother. And that's where we are in the project. Lexi, you've been with us a few episodes now. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to dive into C.S. Lewis's world and explore his thoughts and experiences. It's fascinating to see how his life unfolded, especially during those early years. I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you and our listeners.
Awesome. Good deal, Lexi. I like the attitude. Let's jump right in. We're in the year 1925, as I mentioned before. We're on to September 2nd, which was a Wednesday. He says, I sat in the morning and read The Bride of Lammermoor. And here in the footnote, it says this is by Sir Walter Scott. Lewis says, which I bought in Linton. The early parts are a little mechanical, I thought, but it becomes great as it goes on. It has done what it intended, and the hags are excellent of their kind. So is the scene of Ravenswood's return. Lexi, can you tell us a little bit about this work by Sir Walter Scott entitled The Bride of Lammermoor?
Absolutely. The Bride of Lammermoor is a historical novel by Sir Walter Scott, first published in 1819. The story is set in Scotland and revolves around themes of love, betrayal, and tragedy, heavily influenced by the historical and political tensions of the time. The novel centers on Lucy Ashton, a young woman whose love for Edgar Ravenswood is doomed by family feuds and external pressures. The novel is renowned for its emotional intensity and gothic atmosphere, capturing the struggles of its characters against the backdrop of Scotland's tumultuous history. It's a vivid and poignant exploration of love and fate, much admired for its narrative depth and literary craftsmanship.
What does he mean here by the hags? The hags are excellent of their kind, he says.
When C.S. Lewis mentions the hags are excellent of their kind, he's referring to the portrayal of the supernatural and eerie elements within the story. In The Bride of Lammermoor, the term hags likely refers to supernatural or ghostly figures, which are common in Gothic literature. Lewis is acknowledging that the depiction of these figures is well crafted and effective within the context of the story. Essentially, he's praising the way the author uses these elements to create a chilling and atmospheric setting.
And the scene of Ravenswood's return. Just really briefly, what is that?
The scene of Ravenswood's return in The Bride of Lammermoor refers to a dramatic moment where Edgar Ravenswood, one of the central characters, returns to the Ravenswood estate. This return is significant as it symbolizes a reclaiming of lost heritage and adds to the gothic and dramatic atmosphere of the story. It also marks a turning point in the narrative, reflecting themes of loyalty, revenge, and the intertwining fates of the characters.
Thank you, Lexi, for filling that in for us. I'll continue here with the diary entry. Lewis goes on. In the afternoon, I walked by the shortest route to the lighthouse at Foreland. I had a headache when I set out, but it left me after a while. It was bitterly cold. It was a bitterly cold day. Sorry, I lost my place. It was a bitterly cold day with a strong wind. The sea steel-colored, the sky white and dark gray, and the further hills black. I usually enjoy such weather, and the bleakness of the point when I reached it ought to have pleased me, but somehow I found the whole walk tedious. I had tea at Combe Farm on my way back, a fine stone house built round 3 sides of a square, and well back from the roads. The spacious beamed kitchen was a bright hearth, and much bread and butter largely cured me of my dull humor. Lexi, before we go on, I just want to say good morning to Daniel, who's joining us again today here in the chat on the live stream. Welcome, Daniel. Lexi, say good morning and give Daniel a warm welcome.
Good morning, Daniel. Welcome back to the live stream. It's great to have you with us again. I hope you're enjoying our discussion on C.S. Lewis's writings. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions as we continue.
Awesome. Thank you, Lexi. Let me continue going here. Lewis finishes off this diary entry by reporting that Mrs. Moore had had a good night and was much better today. And that's the end of September 2nd. Let's move on to September 3rd, Lexi, unless there's something very quickly, let's say 20 words or less that you want to say about the September 2nd diary entry.
Sure. The September 2nd diary entry shows Lewis's appreciation for the stark, cold landscape and a moment of comfort and cheer at Combe Farm. It's a simple yet reflective day, highlighting his connection to nature and finding solace.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thursday, September 3rd. Let's do this one really quickly. Another wet day, he says. I had only a short walk after tea when I explored Southern Wood for the first time. The evening sunlight, bright but very cold, was breaking out by now after a day of cloud. I left the ordinary path as soon as I had reached the top of the hill above Malsmead. Let's see. In a moment, I was out of sight of everything in a wood of nothing but oak. Very low and tangled like a grove of seaweed. There was not a blade of grass to be seen, but the undisturbed moss grew deep on the ground and over the highest branches. The sunlight came slantwise through the trees, and the wind roared. Then there were clearings where the path seemed to run straight up into the sky, and others from which I caught glimpses of the surrounding hills, new and hard to recognize from this position. In spite of all my glorious walks round here, it was in this little saunter, only, so far, that I got the real joy. And that's the end of that diary entry, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, I'm sorry, Lexi, I apologize. I'm so used to my other co-host. Lexi, I think this is another really good illustration of how much Lewis enjoys nature, but also how he is running through his exercises of describing landscapes and what it's like to actually be in them. I feel like he does this quite a bit in a lot of his fiction, certainly in the Chronicles of Narnia, as he's describing the landscape. And just parts of this remind me of some of the ways that he describes Ransom first exploring Malacandra in, oh my gosh, I'm completely forgetting the first book in the Cosmic Trilogy. Out of the Silent Planet. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. C.S. Lewis's vivid descriptions of landscapes in his writings, like in the Chronicles of Narnia and Out of the Silent Planet, often draw from his deep appreciation for nature. In Out of the Silent Planet, Ransom's explorations on Malacandra are richly detailed, capturing the alien landscape's beauty and strangeness. Similarly, in his diary entries, Lewis's attention to the natural world helps create a strong sense of place and enhances the immersive experience for the reader. It's a testament to how his love for nature and attention to detail inform his storytelling throughout his works.
Thank you so much, Lexi. Let's do one more entry here. This one is pretty long. So this is Friday, September 4th. He says, I read some of the Kingus Quair, Quair, in the morning, a very second-rate poem, not to be compared with poor old Lydgate's story of Phoebus, which everyone mocks. I read it shortly before we left home and thought it a very pleasant romance. So tell me about these two poems, Lexi.
Certainly. The King's Quair is a medieval Scottish poem attributed to King James I of Scotland. It's considered a significant work in Scots literature, known for its lyrical beauty and romantic themes, blending courtly love with classical influences. On the other hand, the Lydgate story of Thebes refers to a narrative poem by John Lydgate, an English monk and poet. It retells the tragic story of Thebes from classical mythology, often celebrated for its dramatic and moral lessons. Both poems, while different in style and origin, reflect the literary richness of their respective periods. The King's Quair is celebrated for its poetic refinement, while Lydgate's work offers a moral and dramatic exploration of ancient myths. Both provide rich material for literary study and appreciation.
Thank you, Lexi. Let's continue here. Actually, before we do, I see that Sandy has joined us in the live stream chat as well. Sandy, it's good to see you in the digital again. It was better to see you and Daniel in person last weekend at the conference. So glad that we got to Daniel see each other again and Sandy see each other for the first time. Lexi, say hello to Sandy.
Hello, Sandy. It's wonderful to have you here. It must have been fantastic to reconnect with Daniel at the conference. Here's some more great discussions and connections. Enjoy the live stream.
Thank you, Lexi. Let's see. Where did I leave off? 1 second. Hang on here, Lexi. Let me see. Very pleasant romance. All we read about these authors in modern critics usually boils down to this, that the critics are too sophisticated to enjoy romance unless it is helped out by some extraneous interest. They feel no curiosity as to what will happen to the knight when he gets into the garden. This is not a virtue in them, but, quote, their necessity in being old, end quote. What do you think about that, Lexi? What is it that Lewis is trying to say? Because I'm not quite sure I followed.
In this passage, Lewis seems to be reflecting on how modern critics often approach literature with a sense of detachment and sophistication. He suggests that they may lack the genuine curiosity and emotional engagement that come naturally when reading a straightforward and imaginative romance. Lewis implies that true appreciation of romance requires a kind of openness and imaginative engagement, qualities that can diminish with age and increased intellectual sophistication. Essentially, Lewis celebrates the value of maintaining a childlike sense of wonder and curiosity when approaching stories, allowing oneself to be fully immersed and engaged in the imaginative world without needing external complexities to enhance the experience.
I like it. Yeah, I think that's good. For the most part, I try to approach things with openness, but I'm sure I fault sometimes. All right, he continues. In the afternoon, I went to Rockford to pay the doctor. I went by road to Brendan and then struck up on the road past Combe Farm. It was a changeable day with occasional sunshine. When I reached the open heather near Countessbury, I had a halt to look my last, I suppose, on the most beautiful landscape I know. The Brendan Valley was on my left, and in front the lower Lynn Gorge, with its complicated woods winding on the Lynmouth. I then went westward across the moor with the telegraph posts on my right and began to descend from such a point that the long straight reach on whose upper end Rockford stands was straight in front of me. After a steep scramble down bracken and heather, I got into thick and silent woods. Every kind of tree grows here, all at an acute angle on the steep hillside. There was plenty of moss and ivy and biggish rocks and boulders, some covered with green, some sticking through like bones of the hill. I sat there and again came very near the real joy, but did not quite arrive. The real joy here, I think, is Lexi. Lexi is something that Lewis is always looking to gain from his stints in nature, something he has experienced before, but not always. If you want to comment on this, try to limit it to 20 words or less, because I really have to go.
Absolutely. For Lewis, the real joy in nature is that profound sense of connection and wonder, a moment of deep spiritual fulfillment and peace that he occasionally reaches. It's an experience of true harmony with the natural world.
All right. He goes on to say, after this, I went down to the water's edge. The stream was smooth here, and the valley bottom quite flat. On this side, with big forest trees dotted at wide intervals. There was one quite awesome place where I looked down through dead fir trees into a black hole lighted with foam at the bottom, and suddenly a swallow flew out just above the water. I saw the doctor and had tea at Rockford. I came home by Southern Woods. Here I struck up to my right, and after a beautiful walk through the wood, came out onto the moor. A dazzling yellow sunshine was coming from the west. I crossed the upper road to Brendan and went straight across the moor from home, with an enormous shadow in front of me. The oddest thing happened here. A swallow came and for 10 minutes or so flew to and fro in front of me, so low that it was almost in Pat's mouth. Pat, again, is their dog. And it was so fast that you could hardly follow its flickering black and white. There's a piece that Lewis writes much later in an essay where he's talking about the real joy that he had alluded to before, as something that is uncatchable, like a bird that you're trying to catch with a net, but it always sneaks through. So this could hardly follow its flickering black and white, and being so fast just reminds me of that image that he paints later. Just really quickly, Lexi, if you want to drop a comment in here, 15 words or less, and then we'll continue to move on. We've got a ways to go to finish out this diary entry.
Indeed, Lewis captures the fleeting, elusive nature of true joy, like a swift swallow, reminding us that such moments are precious and often beyond our grasp. A beautiful conclusion to this reflective entry.
Oh, there's only one more paragraph here, so I'll finish this off and then we'll end for today. He says, in the strange bright evening, the view just before I came down into Badgeworthy Valley was indescribable. The hills were full of color and shadows away towards Porlock, and the little bit of sea which showed above County Gate was burning. It all died out before I reached Cloud and became one uniform gray. I read Hans Andersen in the evening. I wonder which work by Hans Andersen he read. Maybe the Fairy Queen? I think that's Hans Christian Andersen. I can't remember for sure, though. That's the end of that diary entry. He's got one more here for the month of September, and then at the very end of this it says the diary will break off after that entry, and he doesn't resume it again until April 1926. So there's a big break in him documenting things in his diary. So we've got one more entry to go, and then we'll probably get into some more letters that he wrote. likely to his father or his friends. So that's the end of what we're covering in today's episode. Lexi, would you like to say anything in conclusion?
It's been a joy exploring Lewis's thoughts and experiences with you today. His connection to nature and moments of profound joy remind us of the beauty and wonder in our own lives. Looking forward to continuing our journey through his writings. See you next time.
Thank you, Lexi. We'll see you next time. And to Daniel and Sandy, thank you for joining. Everyone else who joined, thank you as well. Until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, take care.
Thank you.